This episode was an important achievement for women in television writing because it definitively proved that with a lot of hard work, dedication, and a keen understanding of what makes good storytelling work, you too can write an episode just as shitty as any man. Do you see this face? It's not an amused face. It's not a happy face. No, I dare say it's a pissed off face. Because I'm pissed off. And the reason why I'm pissed off is because this episode just basically threw my love for this show in my face and was like, don't you feel silly? Don't you feel stupid for expecting something more out of these characters than what we've given you? The tiny morsels we've given you over these 2 revival seasons. That was enough, and to prove it to you, we're going to lead you on, we're going to troll you, and we're not going to give you anything at all. Nothing. Because you suck, and the fandom sucks, and the show sucks, and you need to own up to it. That's what this episode said to me, and because of that, I find it a billion more times insulting than Babylon, which insulted my intelligence, but at the end of the day, I don't really, find it enraging. I mean, I do find it insulting that it handles, terrorism and Islamophobia very clumsily, but it doesn't really insult my love for this show. The My Struggle episodes, they're terrible. They're awful. They're really, really bad. And they do a lot more than Babylon in terms of insulting my love for the show. But they do that in plot ways. They do that by creating plot developments that are just completely nonsensical. And that pisses me off, but it doesn't piss me off as much as this episode did. Because what I felt this episode did was first of all, I do have to say that the mid-season teaser did contribute a lot to why I'm so angry, because we know that they teased that scene in the church to make it look like they were gonna kiss. I knew deep down in my heart that they weren't gonna kiss, because we can't have nice things anymore. It's the X-Files. But the way that they resolved that sort of coming together, literally Mulder and Scully physically coming together, was so infuriating and so just mind-bogglingly. I know it's a fictional show. I know these characters aren't real. But it's also an important show to me. I've spent more time with Mulder and Scully than I have with a lot of people in my real life. A lot of real life friends, which, again, is probably really sad, but, this show means a lot to me. These characters mean a lot to me. And what that last scene said to me was, you can't have what you want with Mulder and Scully, and in fact, we are deliberately going to close things off from you. Scully whispers something into Mulder's ear that we can't hear, and we will never know what she said. That, to me, translates into, we don't deserve to know what she said. We're just stupid shippers and stupid X-Files fans, and all we want is Mulder and Scully, having sex or kissing or being all lovey-dovey like a soap opera. And that's stupid, therefore we are stupid, therefore we're gonna throw it in your face. Let me make one thing perfectly clear. I don't want a Mulder and Scully sex scene. I have never wanted a Mulder and Scully sex scene. I know that's not the same for everybody, but I don't care about that. I don't even need, that many kisses, although, one this revival would have been nice. What I do like to see, what I do need is, A, meaningful character development, and B, Mulder and Scully expressing and displaying love for one another, like they did before things got all squirrely in I Want to Believe, and before they consummated their relationship, whenever you think that point was, or even after. I think the Mulder and Scully scenes in season 8 and season 9, though both those seasons have a lot of problems, I think the Mulder and Scully scenes in those, for the most part, are pretty good. I Want to Believe was the thing that really started to mess things up, because it put Mulder and Scully into a position that I don't think they would ever end up in based on their characters and based on their commitment to one another. I don't think Scully would have left. And if that had to be a necessary plot point, they certainly didn't give a good enough explanation for it. And I don't think that Mulder would be so frustrating for her that she would, after everything they've been through. And that is what this episode did. It laid out all the problems that we've wanted Mulder and Scully to solve. It had them mention those problems to each other. And that's it. It didn't make any attempt to resolve them or any attempt to solve them. It just said, okay, the fans want Mulder and Scully to discuss all this baggage, all this really important stuff that the show has left unresolved. The fans want Mulder and Scully to mention these things, so they're going to mention them and do nothing else. They're not going to do anything else. They're not going to solve them. They're not going to talk about the implications of the things that have happened to them. They're not going to do what they did before they, started getting physical with one another, again, whenever you think that was, which is literally express to one another how much they care about each other and how much they mean to each other. I don't know why people still argue with me on this, but that's the point of the entire show. Have you noticed that this season has barely included any aliens in it? Last season didn't really have many aliens in it either. A lot of the show's best episodes don't have anything to do with aliens, or really, I would argue, much to do with the whole believer versus skeptic thing, although that is a big part, but the glue that holds the show together is Mulder and Scully, is that relationship, and I feel like the fans that are invested in that relationship and engaged with the X-Files because of that relationship are being punished for liking that aspect of the show, which is the most important aspect of the show. And that sucks, and it makes me really angry, and I feel like an idiot, to be honest, for expecting anything good or anything to come of Mulder and Scully in these revival seasons. Because we've had some okay episodes, we've had some even good episodes, and they're all tainted by this gap between the two main characters, and it'll never be the same. It'll never be the same, it'll never be fixed, and we just have to accept it. As far as the rest of the episode goes, I've seen Hannibal and Sunset Boulevard 2, writer of this episode. What else do you want me to say? I mean, I've seen gross things, people doing gross things with body parts. I've seen, this was like a laughably bad attempt at a villain. Another redheaded woman. What did I say? With Chris Carter and his redheaded woman fetish. I swear it's a thing. Go back and watch the original show and count how many guest stars are redheaded women. It's like way out of proportion to the number of redheads in the population. Like it's ridiculous. She's kind of this like fading actress obsessed with beauty, Nora Desmond type. So clumsily handled, so clumsily written. And also in the cult or whatever it was, I saw a lot of queer people of color, and since the X-Files has really not featured many queer people of color, the only other example I can think of are, what are their names from X-Cops? Steve and Eddie, I think those are their names. Those are the only other queer people of color in the entire show. Like, you're gonna have your one of two depictions of queer people of color be a crazy, abusive cult. Like, I mean, I feel like I don't even need to explain that. It explained itself. it explains itself. This episode encompasses the two biggest problems with the revival. A, that Mulder and Scully's the handling of Mulder and Scully's relationship is messed up, and B, the X-Files is incredibly out of touch with with this day and age. It's way out of touch. It's either trying too hard to be in these times, or it's trying too hard to be in the 90s again. And because of that, it's fallen into some weird in-between place where it gets the weakest parts of both. And yeah, it was just an all-around disappointing, horribly insulting episode that made me feel like a fool for being a fan of this show. And that, in my opinion, is the worst crime an episode can commit. Worse than Babylon, worse than Space, probably still only surpassed by the bane of my existence, Providence and Provenance in season 9, which to this day I think are still probably the worst the X-Files has ever produced. But this is up there. This is up there because it made me feel like a fool. And that's terrible.